Hello, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's series of webinars, of which we are on our third, a bit shorter, a bit punchier. And the third one is where we move away from the fascinating world of Forex and we move into the broader markets, but in particular the US markets, stocks, indices, and hopefully we'll have some time to look at some commodities as well. But before we start, as always, may I just draw your attention to the disclaimer that I know you can see on your screen. Trading can be a very risky business, so please don't ever think of using money that you cannot afford to lose. In all the sessions, all the charts that we consider, we will be looking at them through the prism of volume price analysis. This is this relationship between the price action and volume, includes support and resistance, the candles, candle patterns, and also chart patterns, and also time. That's time frame, multiple time frames. And we also use our I have some standard indicators, but we also have our own proprietary ones which we've developed to support the VPA methodology, and the details of those indicators you can find at quantumtrading.com. I know we have a lot of you have already invested in some of these indicators. Some of you, this may be the first time that you have seen them, and we will certainly explain them to you as we go through the charts. But the website is quantumtrading.com. There's also a Forex program, an education program, that's at quantumtradingeducation.com. And we are working on a very, very comprehensive program for stocks. We're actually doing that at the moment, and it really is. It's turning into quite for us, because we've been doing this a long time, and markets have changed for a long time. In all the time we've been around, I won't bore you with what it was like when we first started, but it suffice to say, you used to have to pick up a telephone to put an order in with the broker. So things have moved on since then. But on the stock side, one of the most interesting aspects that has changed is certainly the introduction of ETFs, because we're going to be talking about stocks in this session. And what we've included in the program is not just, oh, this is a stock, this is what you look for, this is your checklist, oh, go away and trade it. No. It's, you have to understand an awful lot more than that. And one of the modules, amongst others, is going to be the use of ETFs, which weren't around, as I said, when we first started, or if they were. Were you aware of them, David? I have a clue. No, absolutely not at all. And they are utterly fascinating, and I can understand they are fantastic for you may have heard, for diversification, and it allows investors, traders to gain exposure, to go into markets that normally they would not, you have no idea, you couldn't access, if you like, either from a trading or an investing perspective. But the more I dig into them, we believe they are crucial to the understanding of what is actually also impacts what is happening on the chart itself. Now, last week, if you were with us, those of you who come along, some people say you're obsessed with sectors, but sectors are really, really important, because they are a kind of top-down filter. And we're at the time, at the start of the new trading year. Those of you who weren't here, I'll just put it up again. This is Novell Investor. This is the performance of the sectors overall last year. We can see energy was very much at the top. And the question is now, well, is it going to be a good sector to move over into 2022? So that's the sort of premise I've taken. And a sector, if you like, that is the kind of umbrella. Now, underneath the sector, this is the energy sector. Sometimes it's called the oil and gas sector, but it's now just generally known as energy. Within that, you have different industries. There are different companies that do different things. There's actually the producers. There's the companies that shift the product either in its raw form, upstream, midstream, downstream. So they're the little clusters of companies that all do all sorts of different things. So when we're filtering, when you're looking for stocks, to either trade or to invest in, you obviously have to do some filtering. And I'm going to carry on with the energy because there's a lot of volume going into the energy sector at the moment. As I said, it was top of the leader table last year, and it's really a question is, okay, you know, is there still an opportunity for this year? And the thing to remember about energy is, I know we're in this transition period from, you know, a dirty fuel, as it were, oil and etc. And you know, we all have this. There is this desire to move to renewables, etc. And there is a, you know, there'll be an industry for renewables as well. It is a transition period, and oil is going to be around for a little bit longer. And it's interesting in the filtering to actually see how much money is going into the into the companies within the sector. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to see if I could find a stock by also looking at the ETFs, so that I can compare that stock not just to the sector ETF, which in this case is the XLE, what weighting that stock has within the main sector. But then is that stock also represented in some of the industry ETFs? And once you start going down, it's a bit like going down a rabbit hole. You sort of, it's absolutely extraordinary, because obviously shares within a company, they're then allocated to the different ETFs. Their weightings are very different. Weighting is really, really important, not just from a sector industry perspective, but it's also hugely important with regard to indices. And we've got a classic example this morning, today, when as you know, the indices have been, you know, up, down, but they're now sort of roaring back up. We've got the Fed later on, fine, everything will quieten down before the FOMC itself. But, and we said this in previous webinars, the stock market performance of the US market has primarily been driven by I think 10 or 12 companies. 10 or 12 companies are responsible for the overall gains of the indices, and that is partly a function of how the index in which those companies are weighted. If you have by market cap, then you will get one result. But when you equally weight, if you take all the components of that index and you give all the companies an equal weight, you get a very, very different chart. Now, I'm not going to do that. This is something that I came across on Bloomberg, and it's really quite, it's like all the eggs are in one basket, as it were. Now, one of those eggs was Microsoft yesterday, and Microsoft is fantastic. It's, you know, did really well. It's also a company, those of you who came a few weeks ago, I said what to look for this year. We looked at energy. I said the metaverse, and I also said pharma this year. Microsoft is a very, very important stock in the metaverse, and the metaverse list of stocks is something I want to cover, you know, moving forward. But I still want to stick to energy at the moment, because I want to see, using a couple of other variations to the filters that I've put on my FinViz, and I'm kind of trying to get a step-by-step for you, so you know where to start. What is your starting point? What do you next? These are all free resources, by the way. These are not paid resources. You may have to do a little bit of digging around with ETFs and what have you. The ones I use are paid ones. I'm still trying to see if I can find some free ones. It's a little bit tricky with ETFs, and you've got to know what you're looking for as well. So this is a sector on, as I said, I've just pulled up on FinViz. I've just put the, I've actually just done the NYSE, actually. I haven't put any. It takes out the Brazilian and the, well, I've actually got Colombia down here, but that's probably because they're listed on the NYSE. Right, so we've got energy. I've got relative volume. I've actually got just over 1. Relative volume is the ratio between the current volume and the 3-month average intraday. The current, I've actually gone for current volume rather than average volume, and I've actually got a million, the number of shares traded. So we can see that, you know, we want lots of activity going into the stock, optionable and short. What I've then done is, on the technical side, I haven't actually done it yet, but I will do it in a minute. I haven't done anything on the fundamentals. On the technical side, what I have done is, the pattern I've been looking at is the wedge pattern. And we're going to be, oh, they've all disappeared. Oh, that's because I haven't got yesterday's list here, so that's not going to be any good for me, so apologies. But I have got my chart set up for this, is because it hasn't I think it will be at the end of the day, and with the free version I should have downloaded it and taken a screenshot, but I didn't, so apologies. So what I've been looking at is the wedge pattern. So what I'm going to have to do is go to my chart, because what I've done is I have, actually, let me just take this, just go quickly. So I just want to explain what I mean by a wedge pattern. Let's put wedge here. Let's go back to description. Let's go any, and just to show you what I mean. Right, okay. Okay, find it. Let's have a look at this one. It's Procter & Gamble. Let's have a look. Let's put TA on it. There we are. Right. What I mean by wedge is Procter & Gamble. Here we are. I really want to see it's trend lines. We don't use them on the webinars, but trend lines are all mentioned in the VPA book, how you actually draw them, etc., etc. But you know, I don't have time myself, and FinViz will do it for me. And then what I do is I then take these lines and I replicate them on my charts and go on and carry on from there. But this is what I mean. So you're looking at some kind of, you know, you draw where you get this kind of, you know, open, very open chart pattern. There's been some price action within that, you know, between the lines, as it were. Is the price action at the lower end? Is it at the upper end? That tells you, is it ready to break out? Is it ready to break down? Is it sort of meandering across the middle, to kind of help you determine whether you have, you know, a viable trade or not. Now, going back to the energy sector, because we looked at William Industries last week, now this is completely disappeared. So let's have a look. Let's see if I've got it. Let's have a look. Let's take this off. There we are. There we are. Take that off. Let's start again. There we are. All right. This was the chart that caught my eye. Antero midstream. Here we are. This is what I've recreated on my this is one that came through on the FinViz filter. I do apologize, I'd forgotten that once we have the Wall Street open, I lose everything from the previous day and what have you. And I would have looked at this anyway for the simple reason, for this one particular candle here. As we can see, this is a very big hammer candle with a lot of volume underneath it, and it's preceded by a candle where it was a down candle, but there's a lot of late buying coming in to that candle there. So clearly it's, you know, there's buying coming into Antero, and it's at 9.40 a share. And what's also nice about this daily chart is it's not gappy, it's not full of gaps everywhere. It's got some really nice sort of fairly smooth price action. You've got, you know, obviously you do have gaps possibly around earnings, but you, just by glancing at it, you recognize the classic VPA. We've got a nice hammer candle, we've got a decent amount of volume. Looks like it goes up on a, you know, on decent volume. Then it's got a little bit of weakness coming in. You look at underneath the volume, but yeah, the volume falls away. So yeah, it's just a pullback, goes higher again. We do have this gap down. I suspect possibly that was earnings again, but it's not. It's very, you know, it's a nice chart. It really is. And then we have up here, we have this tiny little candle here that we see with a massive volume underneath it. You can spot the anomalies, and just from sort of VPA 101, it's a great chart to have a look at. So I did a little bit of more research on AM, and I actually found the industry group that it is part of. And this is just the thing is about these stocks is they will be they will participate not just in one ETF, it could be in multiple ETFs. And the trick is to find the ETF where they have the biggest, the most number of shares, because then you've got a better benchmark. So last week we looked at Williams and we looked at the XLE. So Williams is also in the MLPX, and it is the global MLP energy infrastructure ETF, because there's something to do with midstream. You know, you can look it up yourself if you wish, and you just want to see, is it actually doing, you know, is it performing as you would expect compared to what the ETF is doing. And as I said, the nice thing with FinViz, you've got the lines drawn for you as well. So let me just see what I did there. Now, the next step is, if you want to find out a little bit more details about the actual stock and the ETF, is go over to Market Beat, just put the ticker in, and it gives you an overview of what the yearly performance is, what its latest performance, and of course it's going up. You know, you look at the shape of the chart. It's all these little bits of information because what you're trying to do as a trader and an investor is, if you like, you're doing a risk assessment. So when you do put your money into something, you have tried to mitigate as much of the risk as possible. You will never eliminate it 100%. There is no such thing as, you know, something being risk-free. It's, you know, you just, there will always be risk, but it is mitigating that risk as much as possible. And last week we looked at Williams. There was a pullback, as we can see here, but money, as I said, volume has been piling into the energy sector as well, partly in response to, if inflation does carry on, energy oil, it costs more, so the prices are going to go up. So it is a sector that draws in money in certain under certain market conditions, as it were. And in fact, the XLE has also, in fact, goodness, we've got huge amounts going up there, and we've got a little gap up there as well. So it's FinViz and Market Beat. I think when I do this next time, I'll actually take screenshots so you'll actually see and it make more sense to you. Right. This is what AM looks like on the chart, being very lazy and taking the lines that FinViz very kindly did for me. And this is, as I said, this is, if you like, this is what's called a wedge pattern. And by the way, one of the other things we're looking to establish in the program is there are hundreds of patterns out there. You will see them. I don't mean candle patterns, I mean chart patterns, ascending triangles, flagpoles, descending triangles. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. They are not equal in the sense that some have a greater probability of playing out, but a lot of them don't. So don't get too hung up about patterns. But the wedge, if you like, I like, because it's really using trend lines, and it's just giving you another look at support and resistance. But the magic really happens is, in my opinion, is when you look at what is happening within the space that the lines draw for you on the daily chart. And as I said, even, you know, without anything on the chart, by virtue of the fact that we had these candles here, where are they? They are at the volume point of a control, which is encouraging, because if the price manages to get above it, it will provide a very strong platform from a volume perspective. The next question is, okay, you've got support, you've got volume coming in, where is it going next? Well, we then look at what we have on the NinjaTrader. We've got the accumulation and distribution, and we call it accumulation and distribution because it does highlight those areas where, you know, there is distribution, you know, price doesn't go anywhere, it's, you know, and, you know, there's more selling. Accumulation, there is you know, price is going to go up. But the difference with this indicator that draws support and resistance is that you can see it gets either it's quite thin, as we see here, a little bit thicker there, very thin there, and look at this one. This is very, very thick. What that tells us that this area is very strong, because it's all very well having lines on charts, individual lines. If you don't have any idea of the strength of that of that zone, of the strength of that line, and not only that, because this is relatively weak, as it were, compared with that, not as weak as that one. If this price is going to go higher, where's it going to go to? Where is it going to possibly come to a pause point? We have the line drawn here. It's going to get to here. So it gives you an indication of possibly what you're looking for in terms of travel for this particular stock. It's not going to be a V shape. It's not going to go straight up there, but it's encouraging. Now, if it doesn't do that, where is it going to go? In the opposite direction? And we have it down here, which is a weaker line. But then we have volume support here, where it lifted off the previous time. And if you look at the other thing about this stock, it's only $9 or something. As I said, you don't have massive gaps everywhere. It's just a really nice chart. You can read your sort of, the volume price and analysis bits. It's, you just pick out one candle. We're at the volume point of control. It's rising. You had a wick to the bottom of the candle. It came off that support line because of the wick, so that has to be buying. But it ran straight into the volume point of control, and there wasn't a lot of volume underneath there. There's a wick to the bottom. Then it had another attempt. When you're in these consolidation phases, these sideways movement, see what the volume is. What is it going in? It doesn't really go anywhere. It actually rises on low volume, and you think, oh great, fantastic breakout. What happens? There's not a lot of volume. Runs straight into this line here, which has already been tested 1, 2, 3. So there's a little number here which tells you the number of times. Back to this volume. The volume point of control then does what it's supposed to do, which is support you, and then up it goes. Now you have this candle here with a huge wick. There's not a lot of volume underneath. Yeah, it's a deep wick, and also remember, this is only a $10 stock, so you have to read the volume in relation to what is going on. But the key thing is, where your parameters are, both from a horizontal perspective, from the various levels that we have derived from our specialist indicators, and you have a very simple sort of wedge shape, so you are contained within this range of price action. Right, that's what I want to finish on there. As I said, I do apologize. I will take screenshots for next time around, so you can see the progression. And we're not just going to focus on energy all the time. We will look at other sectors and other ways of filtering for stocks. And so another, just to share with you, is something I came across. Of course, we're in the middle of earnings season at the moment. I mean, they're all reporting, massive report. We've got Tesla. Actually, Tesla's at 10:30, but I came across this site. It's called FinCredible, and it's really, really good. If you, like me, I get really frustrated trying to find lists of who's reporting when, but they have it in a really, really simple format. It's very, very easy. You can then click on it, and away you go. And I think there's a paid version. This is just the free version, but at least you know what is coming up. And I recognize some of the names that we dealt with last year. I certainly remember, I think we talked about Vertex anyway. So that's what I've got to say on that. If you've got any questions about anything that I say or David says, please just put them into the chat box. Are there any questions, David, or have you dealt with them? Have a look. See, more than happy. Oh, Penny, yeah. Could you send Penny the fourth link, David, for the fourth one? Yeah. Okay. Okay, Penny, don't worry. David will do that for you. So as I said, apologies, as I said from the beginning. I had it all beautifully set, all the charts listed for you, so you could see you have this, as I said, the wedge pattern that we had here, but the price action will be, you know, is it at the bottom of the wedge? Is it nearing the top of the wedge? Is it sort of stuck in the middle? What are we seeing? It's just something to, you know, sometimes with trading, you want kind of a boundary. You want like a, you know, just, you want something, you know, you've got the horizon. It could go, yeah, it could go to zero. It could go to the moon. But sometimes we just need a little bit of a boundary to see, yeah, that's I can put it in more into context, as it were. So is it giving me a buying opportunity? Well, you know, certainly the sectors doing well, the industry sectors are all doing well. Doesn't mean the stock is, you know, you could have a stock that is going against the sector, but generally speaking, you know, is there everything supportive? And if you see the technical picture on the chart that is also supportive, you know, put it on the watch list, and you know, let's see what happens. I'll certainly put this on the watch list, and we will. And what I will plan to do in this session is actually follow up, because it's nice to see whether, well, you know, this is what you said last time. Does this actually, you know, is this actually has it happened? Is it, you know, is it likely to happen? So that's where I want to stop. I will have the screenshots for you for next time. I'm going to cover things like the metaverse and more on, as I said, on the ETFs, all going into the program, along with options and a ton of other stuff. Well, David and I we're very excited about it, aren't we? When we started, we thought, oh, this is, you know, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Right. I will pass. I think we're stopping, and then we're starting up again with number 4. So hopefully you'll join us in about 5 minutes.